There is a very specific physical sensation you get when you step off a plane in Queensland, Australia.
Oh, yeah, like hitting a wall.
Exactly. I mean, you've just flown halfway across the world. You're dreaming of these crystal clear ocean waters, the cool breeze, and then the cabin doors open, and just bam, the reality of the tropics hits you like a literal physical wall of humidity.
It's intense.
Right. We were looking at a review from a traveler named Robert B. This is from May 2025, and his description is incredibly visceral. He wrote that stepping outside is, quote, very hot, very sweaty, just like living in a steam bath.
Yeah, that is so accurate. It is an immediate environmental shock to your system. And, for a lot of people planning a trip to this part of the world, that climate is really just the beginning of the heat they're feeling.
Oh, for sure. The pressure is on.
Totally. I mean, the anxiety of planning a trip to one of the most famous natural wonders on the entire planet can be absolutely overwhelming. There's just an endless sea of conflicting information out there, like, is it safe for non-swimmers? Are there deadly jellyfish? And the biggest fear of all, I think, is a coral even still alive.
Well, welcome to the Travel Podcast by ExcursionPass. Today's deep dive is into an absolute bucket list heavyweight, Australia's Great Barrier Reef. And you know how we operate here. We basically act as your expert guides.
We do the heavy lifting for you.
Exactly. We want to anticipate every single doubt, fear, and objection you might have before you even think about clicking that book button. We want to share every detail so vividly that it feels like you're already living the experience right here with us. So, to get you out of that Queensland steam bath and safely into the water, we are pulling from a massive stack of real-world data today.
A really massive stack.
Yeah. We're looking at a highly curated selection of recent TripAdvisor reviews from 2023 all the way up to 2026, and we are cross-referencing all those traveler experiences with a really specific, detailed tour itinerary directly from ExcursionPass.
Right. And I think before anyone even considers putting on a snorkel mask, we really need to address a fundamental misconception about the reef, which is just its sheer scale.
Oh, the size is unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the Great Barrier Reef isn't a single continuous structure that you can just, paddle out to from some beach.
Yeah.
It is a sprawling, living architecture composed of just under 3,000 individual reefs and islands.
Wait, 3,000?
Yeah, 3,000, spanning over 1,000 miles along the Australian coast.
That number just constantly breaks my brain. 3,000 individual reefs.
And because of that massive scale, you physically cannot grasp its magnitude from the deck of a boat. You are simply too low to the water, the horizon just cuts you off, and you only see like a few hundred yards of surface water. So to actually understand the environment you're visiting, you have to take to the sky.
Right, which makes total sense.
Yeah, and several of the travelers in our sources strongly recommend a helicopter ride, particularly over a famous spot near Hamilton Island called Heart Reef.
Oh, the photos from this spot are legendary. The algae and the seaweed formations create this perfect, naturally occurring heart shape. Imagine looking down through this pure, crystalline blue water, and you can actually see the intricate, textured patterns of the sand.
It's stunning.
And the massive coral structures just resting on the ocean floor. It gives you this kind of God's eye view of the bathymetry, the whole underwater topography, before you get anywhere near it.
Exactly. But there is a recurring piece of advice regarding this flight that popped up from two entirely different demographics in our sources. We had a review from Lucas J., who was traveling as part of a couple, and then another from a 10-year-old kid named Sarah G.
A 10-year-old?
Yeah, 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And both of them independently insisted on the exact same strategy. You must explicitly ask the ground crew to sit right beside the pilot.
Oh, that's hilarious. It's essentially the billionaire's version of calling shotgun on a family road trip. You're just running out to the chopper, shouting shotgun just to get that perfect panoramic photo.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And the front seat completely changes the perspective of the flight because your field of vision isn't obstructed by the door frames or, the other passengers in the back. You get an uninterrupted view of how the deep blue channels of the ocean drop off sharply right around the bright turquoise shallows of the reef.
And seeing it from the sky sounds beautiful and totally serene. But getting down to the actual reef means getting on a boat.
Right.
And getting on a boat in the open ocean brings up the exact anxieties we know you listening are probably already worrying about.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the first major hurdle, which is the boat ride itself. I'm looking at a 2-star review from Dinky N, a traveler from Melbourne who took a 90-minute ride to the outer reefs. And Dinky warned that the crossing can be incredibly heavily bumpy.
Yeah, we should look at the specific geography of why that ride is so turbulent. It's not just a matter of, oh, it's a windy day.
It's bigger than that.
Much bigger. The Great Barrier Reef's outer edges actually sit near the continental shelf drop-off. So when you leave the mainland, you are crossing from relatively shallow, protected coastal water, right through deep channels where massive global ocean currents are pushing through.
Wow.
You are dealing with real continental swells.
So it's not like a gentle cruise across a lake. You are feeling the raw mechanical power of the Pacific Ocean beneath a relatively small vessel.
Exactly. Which means aggressively managing your own biology is paramount here. If you're prone to motion sickness, taking medication when you start feeling nauseous is already too late.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Well, the digestive system actually slows down when seasickness hits, meaning the pill just won't absorb into your system. You have to take it an hour before you even board the boat.
Oh, wow. Consider that a golden rule for the outer reef, folks. Take the pill early. But seasickness is just the start. Let's talk about the wildlife. And I don't mean the majestic turtles. I mean the stuff that hurts.
The hazards.
Yeah, the hazards. I need to dramatically read a 1-star review from March 2024 by a traveler named River M. The title of the review is just, in all caps, "Kill the jellyfish."
A completely visceral reaction to a very real hazard.
Oh, absolutely. River writes, quote, "A jellyfish rubbed against my leg and now I'm in pain. I'm having an allergic reaction to the sting and my throat feels clenched so it's hard to breathe anymore," unquote.
That sounds terrifying.
It does. River was furious about a perceived lack of warnings. And look, a clenched throat in the middle of the ocean is an absolute nightmare scenario. If I'm listening to this deep dive right now, I'm thinking, why on earth would I willingly jump into water filled with invisible, stinging jelly monsters?
Right. It's a completely valid question.
So how do you neutralize them? You can't put a giant net around the whole ocean, so I'm assuming you have to armor the swimmer.
That is the exact solution. Marine stingers, particularly up in northern Queensland, are a seasonal reality driven by water temperatures. But having the right operator completely changes the equation from a terrifying ordeal to a totally safe adventure.
Okay, how so?
Well, this is where the ExcursionPass Great Barrier Reef Snorkel and Dive Day trip from Magnetic Island becomes such a vital logistical choice. The operator, Pro Dive Magnetic Island, departing from Nelly Bay on a boat named Nautiful, they explicitly provide stinger suits as part of the standard package.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here for a second. We started this deep dive talking about a Queensland steam bath. A full-body lycra suit in tropical heat sounds absolutely miserable. Like, are you just trading a jellyfish sting for heat stroke?
It's a fair concern, for sure, but the mechanics of the suit actually work with the environment, not against it.
Really?
Yeah. A stinger suit is incredibly lightweight, breathable lycra. When you are on the deck of the boat, it provides a physical barrier against UV rays, which are brutally intense near the equator. And once the suit is wet, the evaporative cooling effect actually keeps your core temperature down in the ocean breeze.
Okay, that makes sense. But how does a super thin layer of lycra actually stop a jellyfish? Does it just, like, block the barb from piercing your skin?
It's actually far more fascinating than just being a physical shield.
Right.
Jellyfish tentacles are lined with thousands of microscopic stinging cells called nematocysts.
Nematocysts, got it.
Right. And these cells don't have a brain driving them. They fire mechanically when they detect specific chemicals found on organic skin combined with physical pressure.
Oh, so it's a chemical reaction.
Exactly. So the tightly woven synthetic lycra of the stinger suit essentially acts as an invisibility cloak.
Whoa.
Yeah. The jellyfish tentacle brushes against the suit, but because it doesn't register the chemical signature of human skin, the stinging cells simply don't trigger at all. The jellyfish just harmlessly bounces off.
That is wild.
If River M had been wearing one, that 1-star review would literally never have existed.
That is brilliant. It just tricks the biology of the jellyfish. All right, so the stingers are neutralized with the invisibility cloak. But what if I'm planning this trip and I'm traveling with my senior parents, or maybe I'm just an inherently weak swimmer? It is the open ocean with those continental currents you mentioned earlier. Is this actually safe for people who aren't Olympic athletes?
The data strongly suggests yes, provided you use the tools available.
Right.
Take the review from Sue S., a senior citizen visiting from New Zealand. She explicitly noted that neither she nor her partner had ever snorkeled before in their entire lives.
Not once.
Not once. Yet she gave the excursion a glowing 5-star review.
First time in the open ocean at a senior age, and she loved it. How did the operators manage that?
By offering escalating levels of support First off, for those who don't want to get wet at all, many operators offer access to submersibles.
Okay, wait, let's clarify what that means. Because when I hear submersibles, I picture a military submarine diving down into the dark abyss, which sounds terrifying for a nervous tourist.
Yeah, that's a fair distinction. In this context, a tourist submersible, which is often called a semi-submersible, is essentially a boat where the lower hull is submerged and made of thick acrylic viewing panels.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, you walk down a short flight of stairs from the deck into a dry, air-conditioned corridor that sits about 5 feet underwater. You just sit on a bench and look out the windows. It's essentially a reverse aquarium. You stay completely dry while the entire reef just passes by.
So you get the scuba diver's view while drinking a cup of coffee. I love that. And for those who actually do want to get in the water.
Well, the ExcursionPass tour includes heavy-duty flotation noodles right on the boat. You don't have to expend any energy treading water at all.
Yeah.
You just tuck the noodle under your arms and let your buoyancy do all the work.
Nice and easy.
Very easy. And furthermore, reviewers highly recommend opting for the 30-minute guided wild safari tour.
What does that entail?
You have a professional marine guide physically in the water with your small group. They manage the navigation. They understand the currents perfectly, and they point out all the camouflaged marine life you would otherwise probably just swim right past.
Oh, that takes all the pressure off.
Exactly. It removes the psychological burden of survival and lets a nervous swimmer just focus on breathing and observing.
Okay, so you're wearing your high-tech Lycra invisibility cloak, you're effortlessly floating with a noodle, and a professional guide is managing the current for you. You are completely safe. But that brings us to the most critical, looming question of this entire deep dive.
The big one.
The big one. You put your face in the water, you look down, and what are you actually going to see? Because we really have to address the most heartbreaking objection head on here, which is coral bleaching. Is the Great Barrier Reef actually dead?
We have to look at the conflicting reports completely objectively here. And there's a harsh reality in these sources. We have reviews from people who left feeling deeply disillusioned. Chris the Superlad, who visited in October 2023, wrote that the reefs he saw were mostly bleached and dead. And he actively mourned that humanity has destroyed such an amazing place.
That's so sad.
It is. And Dinky Inn, who we mentioned earlier regarding the bumpy boat ride, also noted that across 2 separate outer reef sites, there was very little color, and marine life was incredibly sparse.
Man, it's a total gut punch. You spend thousands of dollars, fly across the world, endure a turbulent boat ride, and you look down at a marine graveyard.
Yeah. But to understand what Chris and Dinky experienced, we need to understand the actual mechanics of bleaching, objectively speaking. Corals are animals, but they get their vibrant colors and a huge portion of their energy from a microscopic symbiotic algae called zooxanthellae that lives inside their tissue.
Zooxanthellae?
When the water temperature spikes due to climate anomalies, the coral becomes severely stressed and actively expels this algae.
Wait, so it spits out its own food source?
Yes. And without the algae, the coral's tissue becomes transparent, revealing the stark white limestone skeleton underneath. That is the bleaching.
Oh, wow.
Now, the coral isn't necessarily dead at that exact moment. It is essentially starving. Think of it less like a graveyard and more like a fever running through an underwater city.
That's a great way to picture it.
If the water cools down quickly enough, the algae can return and the coral recovers. If the water stays too hot for too long, well, the coral starves to death, gets covered in brown, fuzzy seaweed.
That paints a pretty grim picture. But here's the wild contradiction in our sources. Reviewer Joanne B. went out 2 days in a row and enthusiastically reported seeing incredible clams with bioluminescent glowing colors.
Yeah.
Miriam S. swam alongside massive sea turtles. And then there is the incredibly vivid, brilliantly Australian review from James M. He wrote, quote, "Big fish in your face, heaps of fishes in an open space, just staring at down. Good times. Bit of oi, look at that one. Tell an old mate, lock it in, you beauty," unquote.
James M. certainly had a very different encounter than Chris the Superlad.
He's basically at an underwater rave having stare-downs with huge fish. So how do we reconcile this? How can one tourist see a devastated wasteland while another is having the trip of a lifetime surrounded by vibrant life?
It comes down to the microclimates of those 3,000 individual reefs. You see, the reef is a massive, varied ecosystem under UN supervision. Coral bleaching is a highly localized phenomenon. It does not happen uniformly everywhere at once.
Oh, so the reef is patchy.
Highly patchy.
Yeah.
Your individual experience depends on deep water upwellings that bring cool water to certain areas, the amount of cloud cover, the specific currents, and crucially, the specific site your boat captain chooses to moor at that day.
Ah. So if having a nimble, smaller boat like the Nautiful is the secret to avoiding those dead zones, I'm guessing that kind of logistical agility dictates the price of the tour.
Exactly. Large commercial cruise ships that hold 300 people are heavily restricted. They have to follow strict, pre-approved routes, and they often moor at permanent heavy-duty pontoons.
So they can't just change course on a whim.
No, they don't have the agility to pivot if a certain reef patch is experiencing a bleaching event or poor visibility. But a smaller, specialized dive boat like the Nautiful, which is utilized by the ExcursionPass Magnetic Island day trip, is constantly assessing the daily conditions.
That's a huge advantage.
It's massive. The captain is looking at satellite temperatures, tidal movements, and recent visibility reports to choose sites that offer the absolute healthiest coral on that specific morning.
That is a game changer. So what does that level of access actually cost?
The Magnetic Island excursion is a full 9-hour commitment to the ocean, operating on Thursdays, Fridays, Sundays, and Mondays. And they break the pricing into tiers based on how you want to interact with the environment.
Okay, break it down for me.
Well, if you are a snorkeler, meaning you just want to float on the surface utilizing the guides and the gear, the base price is $325 Australian dollars.
Yeah.
That includes all your stinger suits, equipment, safety briefings, and a packed lunch.
Not bad for a full day. And if you want to go deeper?
If you are a certified scuba diver, meaning you want to descend into the deeper architecture of the reef, where cooler waters often protect more vibrant corals, it's $410, which includes your tanks and weights. Or, if you need to hire the full scuba setup, it's $440.
You know, that tier system is actually a brilliant solution for group travel. You could have a seasoned scuba diver descending 40 feet to explore a coral canyon, while a nervous first-timer stays on the surface with a guide and a flotation noodle, all operating from the exact same boat.
Exactly. Everyone gets the experience they want.
But speaking of access, we have definitely saved the absolute best for last. Because there is an experience buried in these reviews that frankly blew my mind, and it completely alters the psychology of visiting the reef.
Oh, you are talking about the ultimate upgrade. The experience that both Lucas J. and our 10-year-old expert Sarah G. were utterly obsessed with. Reef sleep.
Yes. The mechanics of reef sleep sound completely surreal.
They really do. Let's contextualize what a standard tourist experience looks like first. A large boat arrives at a massive, permanent floating pontoon moored out on the outer reef. 300 people get off. Everyone splashes around. The engines are humming. People are shouting. Then around 3 p.m., the boat blows a loud horn. Everyone gets back on board. The engines roar to life, and the boat cruises back to the mainland.
Leaving the pontoon completely empty in the middle of the ocean.
Right, except for the very small, exclusive group of people who booked reef sleep. You stay behind.
I cannot even imagine the psychological shift of watching your ride home just disappear over the horizon. Sarah G. actually described the itinerary in her review. After the boat leaves, you get to swim in total uninterrupted peace until the late afternoon. You have a catered dinner out on the water at 6 p.m., and then you sleep in a specially designed tented bed, which is essentially an incredibly comfortable canvas swag right there on the upper deck of the pontoon.
Think about the sensory transformation that occurs when the sun goes down out there. During the day, human noise totally dominates the reef. But at night, when the light pollution drops to absolute zero, it becomes a wild, primal environment.
Sarah mentioned falling asleep stargazing while listening to the ocean birds, but the craziest detail was listening to the sound of the reef itself.
Oh, it's so loud.
Right. You can hear parrotfish crunching on the coral. You can hear the splashing of predatory fish hunting in the dark water right beneath your bed. It's like pitching a tent in the remote wilderness, except your campground is floating directly above reef sharks, sea turtles, and glowing bioluminescence.
It's magical. And the following morning, you wake up to the sunrise right over the coral sea. Breakfast is served at 9 a.m., and you have the entire marine ecosystem to yourself to start snorkeling again at 10 a.m., long before the massive day boats even arrive from the mainland.
That sounds incredible.
It really shifts the experience from a crowded tourist attraction into a deeply personal ecological immersion.
It is the ultimate VIP access to nature. Okay, let's quickly recap the ultimate checklist for you, the listener, as you plan this bucket list trip. First, if you take the helicopter, Loudly call shotgun for the front seat to truly grasp the scale of the heart reef. Second, respect the geography of the continental shelf. Pack your motion sickness pills and take them early. Third, utilize the stinger suit. Embrace the Lycra invisibility cloak so you don't end up writing an angry all-caps review with a clenched throat.
Nobody wants that.
Nobody. Fourth, rely on the submersibles, the flotation noodles, and the guides if you're at all nervous about the currents. And finally, if you want to truly disconnect and hear the nocturnal sounds of the ocean, look into reef sleep.
It really is a comprehensive strategy for navigating a complex, ever-shifting environment.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive on the travel podcast by ExcursionPass. We absolutely love anticipating your doubts and doing the heavy lifting so you can travel with absolute confidence.
We do. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final, broader consideration. We've spent a lot of time today analyzing the stark contrast in these reviews. The heartbreaking, bleached stretches of starving coral seen by some, and the vibrant, thriving microclimates experienced by others.
Right, it's a huge contrast.
It is. The Great Barrier Reef is in a state of rapid transition under the stress of a changing global climate. So, if you manage to visit the reef today, are you simply taking a vacation? Or are you bearing witness to a fragile, fleeting moment in ecological history, a beautiful temporary window that future generations might only ever hear stories about?
Wow, that is a profound thought to carry with you, because right now the beauty is still there waiting for you to find the right captain to guide you to it. You just have to get out of that Queensland steam bath and get into the water. Until next time.